So this is the Combat Station. I'm your host, Ty Matthews, and today we have the return of Cory Hendricks, who, fun fact, was my second ever interview. So let's start off, mate. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, no, mate, I'm solid. I'm solid. So let's get right into it. Obviously, this not this weekend, but recently you got a win over the PFL former champion, Emiliano Sordi.
hmm
Now let's start off. How was that experience fighting the former PFL champ, and did you feel and getting the win, just in general, how did it make you feel?
I mean, it was good. Obviously, it went just about as good as it could have gone for me. I mean, other than maybe getting a first round finish, but I got out of the fight injury free. Got a win over a tough opponent. It's the first former champion I've fought, and yeah, no, I feel good. You got to feel good about a win like that and over a solid opponent. And plus, it put me in a pretty good place overall in the PFL standings. Could be a little bit better. I'm in fourth right now, but not too bad. I set myself up pretty well for success moving forward here.
Now, I do believe you weren't even meant to be part of this season. You had a fight booked on the card, but I don't believe that was part of the point system.
Uh, yeah, so I was originally supposed to be part of the season. That was because I came in last year to replace someone who fell out, and part of the deal was that I would be in this season. And then in February, they sent me a release just out of the blue, which kind of pissed me off. Um, so I was like looking for other fights and just didn't really find anything quite yet. And then before I did, they offered me a fight as the alternate, and it was my best option at the time. So I just took it, and I figured someone would fall out. Out of 10 fighters, there's a good chance something happens to one of them. So then I got bumped back into the regular season where I should have been the whole time.
Mm. Now, going forward in the season, do you have any idea of who they may match up with, and who do you want to fight going forward? Is there any fight in particular you do want?
Um, I mean, I'm prepared to fight any of them, and I can beat any of them. There's definitely some that I match up better than others with, and I'm just going to keep that to myself. Um, who I feel I match up better with, but ultimately, it's not really up to me. It doesn't matter. I just need to be prepared to beat any of them because I have no idea who they're going to match me up with. It could be any one of them. So, um, yeah, I've just got to be ready for anything.
Well, I obviously don't want to say who your hardest matchup or who you feel would be your best matchup, but did you feel Saudi was going to be one of your hardest matchups going into the fight, and obviously beat him? Well, yeah, did you?
Yeah, no, I knew Emiliano Sordi's tough. Like I've seen him fight plenty of times before. He's obviously won the whole thing before, and so I knew he's going to be a tough fight. Last year, he lost in the semifinals to Shoeface, but I watched that fight a handful of times, and I definitely thought he won that fight. And I think if the judges would have got it right, I think he would have gone on to win it last year. So he's a really tough opponent. And obviously, like the fight, I didn't like have to deal with much adversity in the fight. So it kind of went a little bit easier than I anticipated. But I mean, that's just the way fights go sometimes. I knew it was going to be a tough fight going into it. It was a little bit easier than I thought it was going to be, but that just happens to be the way that things played out. But yeah, he's a super tough opponent, very experienced, and yeah, he's you can't take him lightly.
And finally, was that the best version of you we saw in that fight? Because obviously you did have a fight booked against Clinton. I'm sorry, I forgot his last name, but you Clinton Williams, and you didn't get to game plan for Saudi. Going into, do you feel that was the best you we saw in that fight, or do you feel there's more to give?
Um, I mean, I feel there's plenty of room for improvement. So I feel like it was one of the best versions of me so far. But I mean, I've still been training. I feel like I've improved already since that fight. I learned a lot from that fight, and I guess that was only like almost 2 weeks ago. But I feel like I've improved at least a little bit since then, and I'm going to continue to improve. So it was a good version of me, but definitely not the best that there can possibly be. And I'm gonna only get better and grow from here.
The season before in the championship finals, you fought Chris Camozzi on that card, and obviously you didn't get the win there. Did maybe that loss help you drive yourself in training more? And did you learn anything from that defeat?
I want to say it made me drive myself harder. I mean, I don't need any extra motivation. Maybe some people do, but all the motivation I need is knowing that, I'm going in there to fight. I don't want to lose to anyone. So all the motivation I need is just to have a fight. So I wouldn't really say it added anything, but I definitely learned a lot from that fight. I learned from every fight, no matter how short it goes or how long or the result. Like, if you don't learn from every single fight, you're doing it wrong. And that was a fight against a good veteran, tough opponent, skilled, well-rounded, and I fought him for 15 minutes. So there's a lot you can take away from a 15-minute fight. There's a lot that happens in it. So I did a number of good things. I did a number of bad things. It was a lot of material for me to go back and look at, see what I did right, see what I did wrong, and then emphasize the things I did right, and then correct the mistakes that I made.
Fair enough, mate. Now, I was going to ask you, outside of obviously MMA and training, what are your favorite activities outside of training? What are your hobbies?
Um, I do a handful of things. Obviously, I spend a lot of time training, but you can't spend your whole entire day training. It's just not physically possible. So, I like to do a lot of woodworking. I like to go hiking when I can. I like to read a lot. I like to play a little bit of video games here and there, but I don't have as much time for that as I wish I did. Um, yeah, I'd say those are probably the main things: woodworking, reading, hiking, video games.
Now, in the gym, who is your favorite training partner, and who is your favorite person to spar?
Um, I don't know. It kind of depends. It kind of depends what mood I'm in, and it really depends like what look I'm gonna get. Because there's sometimes like if I'm getting ready for a wrestler, uh, I'm not gonna want to spar like Khalil Roundtree as much. He's got really good stand up, but wrestling isn't his strength. If I'm getting ready for a kickboxer or Muay Thai guy, I absolutely want to be sparring with Khalil. But if I got a ground guy, I'm gonna be looking for someone else. So really depends on my mood, on how hard I want to go. If I'm in camp, like I'm going to want to go a little bit harder. So I'm going to want someone who's willing to go a little bit harder. If I'm out of camp, maybe I just want to work on things or maybe just want a light day. I'm going to want someone who can keep a little bit lighter pace. And then, yeah, I always want the appropriate training partner to give me the look that I want to help me work on what I'm working on or help me prepare for the opponent that I'm going to fight.
I'm guessing if you're trying to go harder, I'm guessing Sean Strickland's the guy for that.
John Strickland he's definitely the guy for that. If you want hard rounds, he's the man.
Now, coming up this weekend, we've got the UFC pay-per-view. Now, I was going to ask, are you ready to break down the main card?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so starting off the card, we've got Cowboy Cerrone, Joe Lozon. Now, both of them are veterans. Obviously, Cowboy's been on a bit of a bad run recently, and Joe got a win 3 years ago. Now, let's start. Who do you have in that fight? And yeah, who do you favor?
I don't know how recently Joe Lozon's fought. I think he fought not too long ago, within the last couple years, but I don't really remember it, and I haven't seen him fight in a while, so I don't know how he's looking. Uh, and honestly, I'd probably go with Cowboy even still. Just I think their skill sets. I think I would take Cowboy. I think he's more well-rounded. They're both good. Joe is more of a ground guy, but Cowboy is very good on the ground and has better stand-up. So I would go with Cowboy in that fight.
Now, also on the card, you got a few veterans, Shogun Hua and OSP. Now, it's quite a similar fight to last one. Obviously, they've had their ups and downs in the UFC, mostly down recently in the UFC. Who'd you give the edge to?
Man, that one is really just a toss-up to me. I really have no idea what to expect out of it. I guess if there was a gun to my head and I had to choose, I think I'd go OSP just based off of he's looked I mean they've both been around for a while and have a ton of fights, but I would say he's probably looked a little bit fresher maybe. Like Shogun, I don't know how old he is. I don't think he's like way older than OSP or anything, but he's got
Mm.
a lot more mileage on him even though they both have a ton of fights. I think probably the style of training that Shogun came up in took but put a lot more wear and tear on him, and I think he's showing his age a bit more. So I really have no idea what to expect in that fight. I could see either of them winning it, but if I was forced to choose, I think I'd go with OSP just because I think his body is a little bit better, not quite as beat up as Shogun's.
Now the thing with Shogun, he was meant to be retired 2 years ago. Now,
Yeah, I remember something. I thought he retired or said he was going to have one more or something, but I don't know what happened with that.
no, I was going to ask you, with fighters like Shogun who are obviously 40 and they've had long careers, when do you think they should? Obviously, it's up to them, but do you think they should be maybe forced to hang up? And how long do you think someone should fight for if they've been taking a lot of damage?
That's one of the hardest questions in MMA. You know, it's one of the toughest decisions that every single fighter makes. There's very, very rarely just like a clear cut, like this is the right time to retire, so I'm done. And even then, it's really hard to do because you know, fighting it's not just like a job you do. It's a lifestyle. Like to be successful at it, you have to live the life of a fighter. So and for a lot of these guys, like myself included, like my entire adult life, like I started training at like 20 or 21. So my entire adult life has just been centered around fighting with like every decision going through the filter of how does this affect my fighting career? So it's a really hard thing to stop, and it's really a major life change. And you know, you gotta it's difficult because you know you stop that and it's like all you've known for so many years, and then you know you have like all this free time. You're like, what do I do with myself? You need to it like kind of creates a hole in you. You're gonna have to fill that with something. Um, and then it's really hard to pick the right time because you know you don't want to go too long and take too much damage, and just wear and tear on your body and your brain. Um, but then you know if you quit like too early, then it's always like, oh, what could have been? You know, like uh, it's tough because you know, like if you win a fight, then you know in your head you're like, oh, I still got it. I can still do this. I want to fight. Like I'm clearly capable of competing and having success. And so it's hard to go out on a win. But if you lose, like, oh, I don't want to go out on a loss. You know, I don't want to end my career losing a fight. I'd rather end my career winning a fight. So it's uh it's just a really, really hard decision. Like I've thought about it like my entire career, like from the beginning, like at what point am I going to call it quits? And I honestly don't know. I'm kind of taking it one fight at a time because even even beyond my decision, it could be taken from me at any moment. You know, you could have
Mm.
get in a car accident or get in a training accident and have some injury that just ends your career at any moment. So yeah, it's really tough. I have no idea. I couldn't tell someone uh, what to do with that. You know, sometimes you can look at a fighter and be like, yeah, you probably need to be done, but it's still really not my place to say. It's each person's individual choice to make.
Fair enough. Now, going on to the next one, we've got Michael Chandler versus Tony Ferguson. Obviously, Chandler's coming off the war with Gaethje, and Ferguson's coming off a few tough defeats, but two good fighters. Now, there's a lot of people are leaning towards Chandler. Do you have the same opinion of the fight where you think Chandler's going to get him?
Uh, First of all, I think this is going to be an exciting fight no matter what. I have a real hard time seeing it being a boring fight, regardless of how it ends up. And I'm sure that I haven't seen the line, but I'm sure that Michael Chandler is a probably pretty heavy favorite based off how he's, you know, I think he's like only like 1-2 in the UFC, but he's had good fights. You know, almost was the champion, had Oliveira in some trouble and stuff. And then, you know, Ferguson's coming off of three pretty rough fights where he was not really competitive at all. But I honestly think that Tony Ferguson is a bad style matchup for Michael Chandler. And, you know, I could be wrong. Tony's he's past his prime. He's taken a lot of damage, got a lot of miles on him, and, you know, hasn't been doing so hot lately. But I think he's a bad style matchup for Michael Chandler. And if I was a betting man, just given the odds, I would definitely bet on Tony Ferguson. And I honestly kind of think Tony Ferguson's going to win.
That's fair enough. I haven't heard that one yet all week, but that's nice. It's a good one. Get something different.
Yeah, no, I going into the fight, like I'm kind of I don't bet, I don't gamble, but I'm honestly kind of tempted to just because I knew going into this fight that the line would be pretty heavily in Chandler's favor, and again, I just kind of think it's a bad style matchup for him. But we'll see. Anything can happen in a fight, and it's not going to like blow me away if Michael Chandler wins. Like he's a great fighter and easily could beat Tony Ferguson.
Do you think 5 rounds would have favored Tony even more? Do you feel it would be a bit like lines would be closer if it was 5 rounds?
Yeah, I would give the cardio edge to Tony. So yeah, I would think that would favor him. But I mean, even in a 3-round fight, again, I think it's just a bad style matchup, and I think it favors Tony. So I've actually picked Tony in that fight.
Do you think Tony's chin is just one more thing in the fight? Do you think Tony's chin is still there? Do you think after the Gaethje fight, do you think he's still got the
Yeah,
toughness?
I mean he took a lot of damage in that fight, but I mean I think he did. Maybe he got knocked down, but like definitely didn't get knocked out. That dude can take some punishment. That being said, at a certain point, there's only so much punishment you can take. No matter how solid your chin is, at a certain point, you get hit enough, it's just going to go. But I don't know. We'll see. I don't think he's going to go out there and just get knocked out clean right away or anything. Maybe eventually does, but I think he's going to give Michael Chandler, at the very least, I think he's going to give him a really tough fight, and I actually think he's going to pull out a win in it.
Now, we've got the co-main event. We'll get to the main event in a minute, but Rose Namajunas versus Carla Esparza. A lot of people are leaning towards Rose, but Carla obviously is on a career comeback. Do you think Rose is going to get the win and defend her belt?
Yeah, I'll go with Rose in that fight. I don't think I've seen Carla's last couple fights, at least not that I can remember, but I know they've both improved a lot since the first time they fought. I think Rose has improved more, and Rose is one of my favorite fighters. I mean, I'm going to go with Rose in that fight, but Carla's got great wrestling. She could potentially take Rose down and just, manhandle her and wrestle her, but I'll go with Rose in that fight.
And let's finish it with the final fight on the card, and obviously the fight everyone's excited for: Justin Gaethje versus Charles Oliveira. Now, before this fight, Charles Oliveira, everyone's called him a quitter, saying he's not the real champ, and then obviously he proved everyone wrong against Poirier. Do you think Charles Oliveira will be able to carry on his winning streak and prove everyone wrong once again?
This is a fight that I think it's one of those fights where in retrospect it'll seem maybe kind of obvious, and everyone will be like, oh, well, obviously, like this was going to happen. But beforehand, I don't really know. I could really see it going either way. I think if it goes to the ground, I think Charles will submit him. But if Justin can keep it standing, it could go either way. Justin's very, very good on the feet, but so is Charles Oliveira. I think Charles has more ways to win this fight, and to me, it's a toss-up. But if you forced me to choose, I would go with Oliveira just because there's more paths to victory for him. But to me, it's just a toss-up. Really, I could see it going either way.
Going into the Khabib fight for Gaethje, there was a lot of rumors that he neglected training his jiu-jitsu. Going into that fight, he would skip like his jiu-jitsu classes. How do you feel about? Do you feel it is possible to neglect, let's say, areas in MMA and still be successful? Obviously, it is, but do you feel it will catch up to you?
I actually hadn't heard those rumors, but there's people who do neglect areas and are just so good in one area that they're still able to have success. But that's the exception, not the rule. In general, if you neglect areas of MMA, sooner or later, someone's going to make you pay for that. Like if that's what was happening with Gaethje, I mean, that was an example there. Like you can't not train jujitsu. I mean, you need to be more focused on wrestling if you're fighting Khabib, but you also need to be able to defend submissions because he's got great submissions. If you neglect any aspect of MMA, you're doing it wrong, and eventually you're going to get exposed for that, and someone's going to make you pay. It's just a matter of time.
Now we'll probably wrap up in a minute, but 2 more things. First of all, so you taking home the mill? I'm guessing.
I what?
You're gonna take home the million, getting it home this end of season.
That's the plan.
That's the plan. And any message to the fans out there rooting for you going forward?
Well, First of all, I mean, if you're a fan of me, I appreciate the support. I know I'm not the most famous fighter out there, so I appreciate any support I get from fans and people I don't know. Yeah, follow me on Instagram, Cory H MMA, and tune into all my fights. I go out there and I fight as hard as I can. I look for a finish every fight. I haven't won all my fights, but I plan on winning all the rest of them, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make that happen. And yeah, go out there and not just win, but uh, finish. I'm looking for the finish every single fight. So I don't think my fights are ever boring, really. And if they are, that's not my fault. That's someone just wrestling me or doing something boring to me. But yeah, tune into my fights, and I hope you enjoy them.
Mate, hopefully by the end of this PFL season, you're rich. That's all I can say. But, end of the day, thank you for your time, mate. And I do, as I said, I wish you the best of luck going forward.
Thanks for having me.
Hopefully we can have you back on soon. This is the
Absolutely.
Combat Station. This is Cory Hendricks, and we are out.